the other day. Somebody yelled from the back, make up your mind. So, not always received warmly. Thank you, Rita. We did have a few controversial issues this session, but you know, I figured that's what I'm there for. There's no point in being there if you're not going to take a stand on what you believe in, things that are important. And we need more candidates like that. We need candidates who are willing to run. And it all starts with the grassroots level. Rita asked me to come and talk to you tonight about party unity and how do we get our message out and how do we get candidates to run who share the beliefs that we share. And it takes involvement. I will just admit to you that I did not get as politically active as I should have been until I actually got elected. And I learned so much after I got elected that it has really opened my eyes, and I hope to be able to share some of that with you here tonight. I was busy raising kids, trying to start a career. You know, politics just was not on my radar screen at the time, and I got asked to step up when the city of Clinton got carved up in redistricting. We lost our voice in the legislature. I don't know how many of you were here back in 2000, but that's what happened. And they took the city of Clinton, they cut it up 5 ways, and basically prevented any conservative from being elected except for one area, and that was the area that I happened to live in. So I was asked to run by some of the city leaders. I said, how long do I have to decide? They said, you got 1 week. Qualifying deadline is a week from today. I said, all right, well, I'll throw my hat in the ring. And I ran, and I was fortunate to be elected. I've been representing Clinton and Madison County ever since. But that experience right there caused me to realize, first of all, the importance of candidates. We have got to get out and find candidates who share our views and share what we believe in and convince them to make the sacrifice to run. And it is public sacrifice. If you're going to do it right, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to come to events like this when you're not in session. It takes time to vote away from your job, to go down to the Capitol and work. I know when I started working at the Capitol, my income diminished significantly. I always get tickled when they act like we're down there for the money because, you know, they paid me in 1 day what I made in 1 hour practicing law. So it didn't behoove me financially to go down to the Capitol. People have got to buy into the idea that your future, the quality of life that you enjoy, the quality of life that your children are going to enjoy and your grandchildren are going to enjoy is shaped by the people making the laws, both in Jackson and in Washington. And most folks just decide, well, as long as they're not bothering me, I won't bother them. And before too long, you wake up and you realize you got people down there making rules and laws that are contrary to what your convictions are. And then it's very hard to make that change. So I very much appreciate each of you who are willing to come out here tonight and give it your time, because you have concern about your community. You have concern about what is going on in Jackson and in Washington. I am somewhat encouraged that in Mississippi we do have an umbrella of conservatism. If you've seen in the House of Representatives, I'll just give you an example. Back in 1988, give you some perspective, we have 122 members in the House of Representatives in Mississippi. So half of that is 61. 62 therefore is a majority. 62 is kind of your target number. 1988, I don't know these numbers are exactly right, but they're close. 1988, they had about 6 Republicans out of 122. In 1992, that number jumped to 12. In 1996, it jumped to 20. In 2000, it jumped to 33. In 2004, when I got elected, it jumped to 45. And then over the next 8 years, we had about 15 Democrats who switched to the Republican Party. We entered the 2011 elections with 54. We came out of those elections with 63, which was a majority, and we were able to take the House of Representatives for the first time in 136 years. Then last year, over the last 4 years, we've had 4 more switch, which took us to 67 entering the elections last year, and we jumped from 67 to 74. So as you can see, I tell you that to say there has been a march in Mississippi towards more conservative governance over the last 20 years. I think that march is going to continue. One of the best things that helps us is Washington. Candidly. The people are so tired of what they see in Washington, and they don't want the liberal agenda that's being forced down our throats, the people who are not following the Constitution sometimes, and the agenda that is being pushed on us as conservatives in Mississippi, that is coming from without. And so that, I think, is one of the reasons why you see more of a movement toward conservatism in Mississippi. But again, that starts with good candidates. It starts with people who are able to buy into conservative ideals, who are able to get that message out, who are willing to go walk door to door. And candidly, this is just my opinion, the lower you go in the political arena, the more it affects your life. You know, the sheriff of this county has more of a direct impact on your life than probably the governor, for example, or the president of the United States. That is a daily thing. The alderman of your town has more of a direct impact on your street paving and your garbage collection and your millage than your state representative who meets once a year and may pass one law that pertains to you, you see? So it's very important that when we consider that, we make conscious effort to get those people who are going to be our local folks, get young people involved, get people who have passion, people who have time, who want to see a better community, who have a vested interest in your community. Get them involved. Go out, recruit candidates, find people who are willing to serve, convince them to run. And then you got to help them. You got to get out and be willing to give them money, and you got to be able to walk door to door for them, and you got to be able to sacrifice yourself for that. And that is, as a candidate, I will tell you, that is a difficulty. It's difficult to find volunteers, people who are willing to make phone calls, stuff envelopes, walk door to door for you. My district's 25,000 people. That is a lot of houses, and there's no way to hit them all. You need people who are willing to help. So once you recruit that candidate, be willing to get behind them and give up your time, give up your money and help them. It costs about, I'm going to say $50,000 to run a good House seat campaign. Most political analysts will tell you to send out about 5 direct mail pieces for a House seat, like what I have. Well, each mail piece is going to cost you about $3,000. That's $3,000 to $5,000, depending on how many people you send it to. So let's just say, for the ease of calculation, it's $3,000, and that's 5 pieces. That's $15,000 just on direct mail alone. I haven't yet put an ad in a newspaper, or bought a yard sign, or a bumper sticker, or made any phone bank phone calls. And so you can see how it adds up, and it's hard as a member as a candidate to get that money and get it from people. So that's the way you're going to make a difference. We talked about unity. Rita talked a little bit about unity a minute ago. Another thing that I've learned is that the bigger your tent, the more diverse views you're going to get. And sometimes you gotta understand that, you know. You're not going to get along with everybody 100% of the time. You're not going to find a candidate that agrees with you 100% of the time. You're not going to agree with him 100% of the time. Ronald Reagan had a percentage, I forgot what it was. It was either 60% or 80%. He said, if you agree with me 80% of the time, you're my friend. I don't agree with Ms. Gunn 80% of the time. But she and I get along, and we don't fall out, and I don't leave the marriage and abandon the marriage because we don't get along. Russ Latino and I were law partners for a while. He and I didn't agree on everything, but we agreed on a lot, and we still get along. We still have friendship. So I think you can't hate the person just because they disagree with you. We can't hate others because they disagree with us. we got to realize the bigger our umbrella gets, the more diverse your views are going to be. But you search for that common ground. I heard Trent Lott speak many, many years ago. This was after he had retired. He said something that stuck with me. He said, somebody asked him, what would you do differently? And he said, I spent a whole lot of time fussing with people about stuff we didn't agree on. If I had to do over, I would find common ground with that person and work on the things that we do agree on and get those things passed and accomplished, and then worry about the disagreements, later on. So as we reach out and as we go about finding candidates and finding people with commonalities with us, I think that's what we need to look for. We need to look for those areas where we do line up, where we do have commonalities, where our values are shared, versus looking to say, well, he doesn't agree with me about this, so I'm casting him aside. Now that depends on what the issue is, of course. I don't agree with socialism, so Bernie Sanders and I are not going to line up. I get that. But, there are some issues. I'll use this analogy and then I'll quit. And I'll let Chris come and talk for a minute.
Well, we're going to do a little time for questions before you sit
No, I'm
down.
not taking questions today. I'm all questioned out today. No, I'll ask questions. I'll answer questions. This is just something to think about in the way of unity. Al Mohler is a friend of mine. He's the president of the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary in Louisville, Kentucky. He's a preacher. So he uses this analogy as it pertains to spiritual doctrine. He uses an analogy of a hospital, an emergency room. When you go to an emergency room, they do an evaluation of your injury. Why are you there? It's called triage, I think. Any nurses in here?
Yes, it is called a triage.
It's triage. So you come in with a sprained ankle, that is a low-level injury. You're going to the bottom of the list. They'll get to you when they can get to you. You come in with a broken leg, that's a little more severe. You're going to probably be in that second tier. You come in with a gunshot wound or a heart attack, you're going to the top of the list. That's top priority, top level priority. He uses that analogy for spiritual things. He applies it to the Christian faith. What are basic foundations of the Christian faith? Well, the virgin birth is one. You disagree with me on the virgin birth, we're going to have a separation. Resurrection is one. These are matters of doctrinal importance. A second level idea might be baptism, however. We can agree on the virgin birth and the resurrection, but we may have a differing view on baptism. I'm a Baptist. Dr. Charles is back there. He's one of my pastors in my church. He likes to dunk you all the way down, all right? Some people, Methodists and the Presbyterians, like to sprinkle. That's fine. We divide over that, but we don't fall out of fellowship over that. And then you've got third level things that are just of minor importance, that we can all go to church under the same roof and disagree. These would be things like eschatology, that's the second coming of Christ, premillennial, postmillennial, whatever. The doctrine of election. We can all go to church together and disagree on those. But there are different levels of importance. Same thing can be applied to the political world. There are some things that are of major importance. I am a Republican. I believe in limited government. I believe in constitutional rights. I do not agree with socialism. I believe capitalism is the way to go. To me, that's top level stuff. And I'm going to separate from people who don't buy into those things. And then there are other issues that are of lesser importance and other issues that are even lesser importance than that. And I think as far as unity goes, sometimes we need to evaluate where do those things rank. There are some top level issues that we as Republicans are going to fight for and believe in. And then there are other things that are not as important that sometimes we've got to decide, am I willing to overlook that in order to, this person agrees with me on those top level things. They're my friend. And we may not agree on a tax of some sort, but we could still all be under the Republican umbrella and still bring ourselves together. I think we have to come to a point where we're willing to do what we have to bring unity to our party, because we're getting bigger. As I said in the beginning, the Republican Party in Mississippi is growing and growing and growing, and it's going to continue to do that, and we've got to find ways not to shoot each other, but to find common ground. Those are just some random thoughts. I will be here for the